Welcome back to the Midwest Minute. I'm your host, Ross Thompson, and today we got a good one for you guys. Now, I'll admit, it's been a while. Been a couple months. Took a little hiatus. Finished up some school stuff. Now I'm less busy and have some really quality time to grind out some videos on this exciting summer ahead of us. And it is exciting because it's big. It's 2026. It's midterms. A lot of elections going on. If you're like me and you listen to the radio, all you can hear is endorsements for our state senate, as well as higher office here in North Dakota as well as if you're in other states, you're going to hear the same exact thing, I'd presume. And that ties in keenly with the video that I have today. We're going to be going over some major elections in North Dakota, specifically the House congressional election, the primary that's on the 9th of June, as well as the Fargo mayoral election as well on the 9th of June. So we're going to be going over those two, the candidates, the key issues, some financial details, and kind of why it matters to me and why it should matter to you and to North Dakota as a whole, as well as our country a little bit. So this could quietly become one of the most important years North Dakota has seen in a long time. You know, when you take a first glance, North Dakota is a Republican state through and through. We dominate statewide offices. You know, our congressional races are not really competitive for the red side, and a lot of the elections are decided before election day. We already know who's gonna win. Maybe not know by how much, but you know, North Dakota, we're always Republican. This year feels kind of different for these races. I'm not going to say that because I feel Republicans are losing control. I don't believe that. But the political direction inside North Dakota, I'd say, is beginning to evolve, especially as we grow as a state and as our bigger cities grow even bigger. We'll touch on that a little bit later. So we have the two major elections. I feel, in my opinion, are the two biggest for North Dakota this year. Is the congressional race, as well as the Fargo mayoral election. You know, one will tell us where North Dakota currently stands, and one may tell us where the state is heading. And the biggest factor connecting both races may simply be voter turnout. Being this is a midterm year, we see voter turnout less than a presidential race, and we'll dig deeper into that as we move through. But first, I want to say, if you're seeing this, like, subscribe. If you want more content like this, I'm working on getting it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, the good podcasting networks. Let's make sure we're going here. So if you enjoy this, follow, and if you don't enjoy this, it is what it is, and just share the message today. And you don't have to share necessarily my video, but share what you took away from it, and just your thoughts on the topic, and just be aware of who you're voting for and why you're voting for them. It will be my biggest takeaway from this for you guys. So the incumbent for the congressional race for the House Representatives for North Dakota is Julie Fedorchak. She has nearly every advantage out there. She's the incumbent. She has the fundraising advantage. She has Trump's endorsement, statewide recognition already, and a strong Republican support. And you can already see the imbalance, especially on the financial side. As of March 31st, she has raised roughly $1.4 million and spent over $526,000 of them dollars. It's only primary coming up, so she has to win that before she can spend more money before the November elections. But like I said, you have to win the primary first. She won her first congressional election in 2024, just a few years ago. She quickly secured a seat on the Energy and Commerce Committee, becoming the first freshman North Dakota congresswoman in 14 years to receive that appointment. And in a state where oil, natural gas, pipelines, agriculture, and federal land policy is important, that is a very sought after committee, if you want to say. And it just shows her true leadership already in the House, being a freshman candidate. Just recently, she worked on a bill for E15, which is also huge for our corn growers in the state. And one key contrast, I'd say, is in even all three of the big. We had our North Dakota GOP convention here a couple months ago, and really a trend was that none of our higher officials showed up. So Julie didn't show up. I don't think Kevin Kramer or John Hoeven showed up either. And you can take that as you will, whether that's a sign that it doesn't matter, that they have it in the bag, arrogance, maybe they were busy. I don't know the full reason, but I think that led to a lot of dissuadement in the North Dakota GOP standing. And I want to say they even backed her opponent, if you will, and as a Republican. He's definitely plastered all over their homepage, so that could be something to look forward to and see how that turn out. But that's a good transition to her challenger in the primary. His name is Alex Belize. He faces a steep climb because he's got some work to do, right, for the incumbent. He's a military veteran. His campaign, his mottos relies heavily on constitutional rights, states' rights, limit government, and American first messaging. Pure Republican through and through. And so is Julie, but that's just what he's running on. But like, we go back to the fundraising. I mean, Julie's got $1.4 million. He just raised over $10,000. So you kind of see that contrast. Not very much. That was the last time I looked. Could change by now. So could be outdated, but who knows? And politically, there's little evidence that the Republican are moving away from Fedorchak. But like I said, he's got the endorsement, but does that mean anything into the voters' eyes? Probably not. Back in 2024 primary, Fedorchak received 40,000 votes, while Balaz received only about 3,800. So quite a big difference. So I do see this going for Fedorchak here June 9th. I really do. And this is just a quick dive. We'll dig deeper more towards the November election. This one is important on a wide scale, but as far as a primary, nothing too exciting. I can say with full confidence predict that Fedorchak will just take it, but you never know either. On the Democratic side, Troy Hammer is trying to rebuild the Democratic momentum. He campaigns on affordable health care, tax fairness, protecting social security, supporting rural communities, and tribal sovereignty. Financially, he's raised about $74,000 so far and spent $41,000. Now, I don't think he has much of an opponent, if any, for the primary, so this is something that is not even on our radar right now, but we can look towards November when he faces the Republican nominee. One thing to note, he was on the ticket in 2024, and he raised close to $1,000, I think, or close to $1 million for his campaign. So, he's not no slouch. He's out there. I see him constantly on my Facebook. He's putting in the time and work. But so far the trend is overwhelmingly Republican. But this could depend on turnout. One of the most important political stories in North Dakota isn't really persuasion; it's turnout. It's who's going to show up at the ballot box. especially on a primary. It's like you if you want to dig up support, you're gonna have to work, double, triple the amount just to get people out for a primary. In 2024, which was a presidential election, North Dakota had 360,000 votes casted in the election. But when you look at 2022, the midterms, only 238,000 voted, right? So we can see that drop. 2018, though, was also a midterm and had 321,000. And 2014, which was a midterm, was 250,000. So there are, oddities with that, but normally the trend is, midterms guarantee less. And especially now where it's a midterm year where Trump's not on the ticket, it's, we'll just have to see. I'm not necessarily worried about North Dakota, but we can see a wide scale the effect of his policy, his approval rating, whether the referendum on Trump is going to be strong, harsh. We saw already when I'm recording this yesterday, Thomas Massie lost the 4th district in Kentucky, which he's won 7 times over now. And might do a video on that tier 2 recently because I got some deep thoughts with that race, but he lost that to Ed Gallerin in their primary there. So you can see that, we'll just leave it at that for now. But turnout matters because elections, lower turnout favors older voters and highly engaged voters. When you see a lower turnout, it's usually because the youth, the middle-aged, men and women, those are the ones that don't turn out. Usually it's like I said, the ones that will always turn out are the older voters as well as the highly engaged voters. Those are the two that will always vote. Where we see the loss is from the younger and the less engaged politically. So that's where it could be a dual-edged sword. That dynamic has constantly helped the Republicans because a lot of older folks are Republican, but so are a lot of younger. And this is why the Fargo story becomes incredibly important. I feel this is a lot more intriguing to where our state's going to head. Fargo is a big city, and with big city comes a lot of people, right? For many years now, Fargo has become slowly politically different from the rest of the state of North Dakota. It's younger, it's faster growing, more urban, more educated, which could put an asterisk on educated, but we'll just go there. But it is really more politically competitive. For the first time in over a decade, Fargo has an open mayoral seat. That alone would make this race important. A lot can happen in 10 years, and a lot's going to happen in the next 10 years, or what have you. But this is the first time the Fargo mayoral position will become full-time, as this 2026, which grants it more visibility, political influence, and can even have a pipeline toward future statewide leadership. So yeah, with all that combined, this mayoral race becomes about far more than just a city government. It could become a test of what political direction Fargo is going, could correlate to what North Dakota itself is going, just due to the sheer amount of people that are moving there and living there. So let's get some of the candidates out of the way. We have Josh Boucher, Denise Kolpak, Dave Pepcorn, Michelle Turnberg, and Sekou Sirleaf. And what makes this race fascinating is that each candidate represents, a different version of what Fargo should become. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between a couple, but there are differences, right? Not just in politically, but economically, socially, and culturally. So we can first go over Josh Boucher. Boucher is probably the most recognizable progressive figure in the race. He currently serves as a Democratic state senator from Fargo and previously served as a House Minority Leader in the North Dakota legislature. Politically, he represents the ideas that Fargo future depends on embracing growth aggressively. His campaign focuses heavily on housing expansion, inclusion, infrastructure, workforce attraction, and long-term city planning. And his coalition is interesting. He likely performs strongest amongst younger professionals, college-educated voters, downtown residents, progressive, and voters who want Fargo to continue modernizing rapidly. Critics, however, argue that his policies may move Fargo to too far left compared to North Dakota. And that's one of the biggest themes in the race, is how much Fargo could resemble the broader state around it. And I'll harp on that, till I'm blue in the face. This could, maybe not, but we tend to see in some of these cities some of these states is the bigger cities do really dictate, the color of the state. When you break down an election map, it's all red and there's a little blue counties. Well, those counties are the big cities, and there are arguments back and forth. It's, land doesn't vote, people vote. Obviously, the majority of the people are in the cities. But, go ask those people how well their life is and how they're living. So now you have Denise Kolpak. She kind of represents stability. She is a lifetime long Fargo City Commissioner, and she serves as the deputy mayor. So she's got a lot of that experience that maybe you want. Deep relationships throughout the city government and the local community businesses already. She campaigns around experience, economic development, city operations, and a continuing leadership that she has shown. Her argument is really it's not the time for experimentation. Instead, she presents herself as a candidate who can manage growth responsibility without dramatically changing Fargo's direction. Dave Pepcorn. Now, he might be the most polarizing candidate in this race. Pepcorn is a longtime city commissioner and clearly positions himself as a conservative law and order candidate. This is true. I've watched both of their debates so far. I know there's 3 scheduled. I don't think I missed the last one, but I've watched the first 2. And he says it right out. He's a fiscal conservative. He's not hiding that fact. And that's someone we want. That's someone we can see. He heavily emphasizes public safety, homelessness, downtown crime concern, government accountability, spending restraint. Like I said, fiscally conservative, and he said that. And he reflects a lot of what North Dakota votes for. Many growing cities are having the exact same debate. How should cities respond to homelessness, public disorder, and rapid urban growth? His answer is very direct. Stronger enforcement and tougher approaches. Just plain and simple. His supporters see him as a candidate most willing to say uncomfortable things openly. And that's true. All the people that I've heard talk about him will also say, he is not afraid to share his mind. And honestly, that's really not a bad thing. Because you don't want someone in office that's scared to do the right thing, say what they believe in. That's what you want. However, first, he does have a lot of experience. He's been in the Fargo City Commission for 16 years. I think he's maxed out that limit. And I've heard arguments against him saying, oh, if you want to do all this stuff now, you've had 16 years on the commission. Why haven't you done that within the past 16 years? And it's like, okay, fair enough. First of all, fair enough. But secondly, it's like you can do you can yell, until you're blue in the face, like I said earlier, and it's not going to matter in the end if you can't persuade people or people don't want to be persuaded. Like you only get one vote at the end of the day. So if you're voting, for something or against something, but everyone else is voting the opposite way, it's like, okay, yeah, I've been here, but it's also an uphill battle. That transitions to one thing that I really necessarily don't like about his strategy here is throughout both debates, he's really harped on his voting record. He said, look me up, look at my voting record. That'll inform me who I am. And it's like, I did. I did look at his voting record, and it's nice. It is a good voting record. But here's the problem: when you're on a debate and when you're put in front of a majority of people, it's like you don't want to tell them what to do. People are lazy. I'm lazy. A lot of people know me, know that I'm lazy. Not a great habit, but it's true. A lot of people are lazy, and it's like you can tell them to go look at your voting record, but many voters are not going to do that. So if that's going to be your strategy, you might have to think again. You want to show them, you want to tell them, I voted for this, I voted against this. It's like you want to tell them, and maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, but I know in the debates he didn't, and it's like, okay, I know you have a good voting record, but I would like to have seen him show rather than tell, right? Then we get in Michelle Turnberg. She's also a conservative. She currently serves as city commissioner and has tried to position herself somewhere progressive and conservative factions, but in the end, she really isn't conservative. She said it. She's voted on a lot of conservative lines. Just listen to her campaign focuses on fiscal responsibility, accountability, budgeting, homelessness, the downtown area as well, practical city management. She voted against converting the mayor position into a full-time office. Now, I don't know why, but that's just one of her votes, for instance. She emphasizes cautious government growth and skepticism toward expanding bureaucracy. So, there you go. Her challenge, however, may be visibility, but she is out there. She is doing stuff. A lot of these candidates are. Then we get to Sekou Sirleaf. He's a pastor and community advocate who has positioned himself as the most openly community-centered and equally focused candidate in the field. His campaign emphasizes community investment, inclusion, housing opportunity, and representation for underserved populations. He said frequently that Fargo can be greater than what it is now. He appeals to young progressive voters, activists, community organizers, and voters who feel disconnected from traditional Fargo politics. So you can kind of place them in whatever side you want based on that information. But a lot of challenges he faces is fundraising and support, and just expanding beyond those activist voters, right? But when you take a step back and you look at all five of the candidates together, it starts looking much bigger than a normal mayoral election, because each candidate represents a different answer to the same question. What should Fargo become over the next decade? Should Fargo continue rapidly modernizing and expanding? Should it prioritize stability and experienced leadership? Should it move toward tougher enforcement and conservative government? Or should it redefine itself around inclusion, housing, and community growth? And because Fargo is increasingly becoming the economic and population center of North Dakota, the answers to this question may eventually influence the politics of the entire state, like I've said before, with many people there. And some of the issues that are dominating Fargo right now is homelessness, housing, their policy, downtown investment, infrastructure, and growth management. These are the exact same issues shaping politics nationally and growing in urban areas. And let me go back to this homelessness problem, because a lot of people and I think even in Fargo, they don't know how big of an issue this is. And I go downtown Fargo every day. I've gone downtown Fargo every day this past year, and there's not a day goes by that I don't see it. There's not one. Some days are a lot, especially now that it's nice out. There's a lot, and it's sad. Really, it really is sad. But at the same time, it's something has to be done, because we can't just keep doing this, right? And there's been lots of stories of what goes on down there and how they manipulate the system, and they have this needle exchange program, which is looked that up, which is absurd. Handing out clean needles and crack pipes across from City Hall. It's like, what are we doing, Fargo? So it definitely needs change, and we will find that out on June 9th, right? So the bigger question in 2026 may not simply be who wins, but what's emerging. Can us Republicans continue the domination statewide, or is North Dakota, in the wake of this Fargo mayoral election, going to turn more back towards the center? And that's really gonna depend on the youth and how they vote, how they show up. Are they getting politically engaged? Are they filling their mind with the right information? Are they doing their due diligence in voting? And that's what it comes down to is, when you vote for someone, you should know who they are, what values they have, and why you're going to vote for them. Not just someone told me to, or Republican, Democrat, Independent. It goes deeper into that, because there's bad Democrats and there's bad Republicans. And if you're not doing your research and looking into some of these candidates, you're gonna get what you vote for, people. Like, they tell you what it is. Like, they're going to tell you what they're gonna do. You might not like it, but that's what it is. But yeah, that was kind of just a quick little breakdown on some of the political narratives that are going on in the country, and June 9th is going to be a cool day to see how Fargo reacts to everything. Maybe some primary stuff, like I said, in the House here in North Dakota, but I don't think that's going to change too much. But might do some more future videos this summer, so stay tuned. Like I said, if you enjoy, subscribe. And when I say share the word earlier, it's just share some of this information. Look it up yourself. If you're from the Fargo area or know these candidates, or you might not even have to be in Fargo. In your own area, if you have a local position being filled, or your own state, just look at the candidates, do your own research, and just have an open mind to what's going on. But yeah, gonna be an exciting summer. Got some more stuff planned. Hopefully be better worded and more articulate than this video, but wanted to get this one out before the elections, because but yeah, no, we'll take a deeper look at the outcome of that, maybe more in the fall, and kind of what the actual ticket's going to look like in November, and some of these new measures. I know we just recently passed a new measure to get on the ballot about feeding, allocating a bunch of money to feed kids at school. I might do a video on that, because there's some interesting things going on with that too, and it's worth looking into. And kind of just informing people before they vote on that, as well as other stuff. So, yeah, I think it's going to do it for me. Stay curious.